The full version of Ableton Suite for 30 days. And when you join a class like ours, you become a student of the program, you will get 50% off. With us, it's upon completion normally, but since they changed it from 90 days to 30 days, it's something we're going to offer halfway through. I can no longer force you to finish your assignments before we give you that 50% off, which makes me a little sour because I like to make people accountable for actually doing the work, because you're going to take your time out of your life to spend some money to learn this, to listen to me. I want to be able to give you the best opportunity possible for you to become a music producer within 8 weeks. Now, being Scott Storch, a massive music producer, in 8 weeks, it's just not feasible. But by the time you leave a class like ours, you will have the know-how up and down of Ableton 101 without having to worry about, oh, did I learn this or did I not learn it? The classes, the videos, the assignments, the feedback sessions we do weekly, they will all be available for, I think, up to a year after the course. So if you can't catch me for some reason at a certain time, you have questions, you can always review the videos. Every one of those assignment videos have a well-descripted recap in the YouTube section to say, okay, where did I learn this? You can look through all the assignment videos and see, okay, we learned how to do that here. Go to those assignment videos or even watch that video again. But I'm a night owl for the most part. And honestly, you could probably catch me any time of the day if it's after 10 a.m. up until like 3 a.m. I'll always answer your questions, and more than happy to, because teaching is also a passion as well as the music. So I'll take whatever time it requires for people to grasp what I'm trying to teach them. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get started. So whether you have Ableton or not, you can just download it there, install it. It's pretty much self-explanatory how to walk through, get everything set up. Once you have Ableton open, let me go ahead and I don't know if this is too dark. I'm going to change the look to be a little dark. We'll go mid. It's a little bit brighter for people. All right, and now once you start the course with us, I'll give you a Google Drive link to 4 gigabytes of one-shot sounds, noises, and we can always talk about and share packs that other people make that are free to download, whether they're MIDI packs with melody notes or they're just strictly drum packs. Once you do that, I teach you how to install it into your library of Ableton, which is very simple. You can literally just drag it from where you download it into there, or you can click the add folder button to do so. Okay. Now, starting out or making music when, at the Beat Music Academy, we like to build drum racks. Now, this is a stock standard template that Ableton gives you is 2 MIDI tracks, 2 audio tracks. But what you just do here, we go over to instruments and we will go to the drum rack. We'll just double click. Now we have a drum rack open. Now this module, if you've ever used Beat Machines, Akai's, MPCs, whatever it is, some sort of MIDI module to be able to make music, make beats, stuff like that, same thing. What we just do with that drum rack that we loaded up is add the sounds to it. Now you could do them one at a time, or you can load up all the sounds you like. You can save your preset drum racks to particular types of genres of music. However you want to save it, the sky is the limit. From here, what I'm going to do first, let's pick out a kick. So going down to our drum samples, we will choose kick, and we'll just kind of go down the list. Let me turn on this little microphone button so we can hear them. You just kind of choose from there. And if you sort of like a sound, but maybe it's too long, it doesn't even matter, because Let's see, is somebody else getting in here? Okay, it doesn't matter because you can always fine tune your samples, which I'll show you in a moment. Let's choose this 808 number 8 kick. Okay. I'll go ahead and maybe add a hi-hat as well. That way we can kind of speed things along as far as building one of our scene loops. So let me know if this is too loud, you guys, because I have my cue up a little high here. Yeah, let's just use that. Sounds kind of nice. So I'm going to choose this 808 closed hi-hat. All right. So we've added 2 sounds into our drum rack. Now, in order to build our drums, we are going to double click here at the top, just below the title of the drum rack. We are going to double click and we make scenes. See, if you double click here, you're just making new scenes for your loops. So we don't need that many just yet. So we have one here. Now, if you open up the scene, you will see you have this little grid with 1 measure looping. Doesn't have to be 1 measure looping. You can start out that way, or you can change the length over here in this section by making it longer. You want to make it 8 measures? Cool. Sky's the limit. I'm going to start with 1, and then I'm going to show you how we duplicate it. So, you know, for ease, the purpose, yes, I do electronic music, but I would also like to stick to doing a 4/4 beat because it's the easiest to move things along. It's just a steady 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously, you can boom, 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 do whatever you like to do. But for this, the free course, we are going to stick with doing house music, let's say that. So if you look here on the left side, kind of where you have keys actually starting like a piano, you will see our kick and our 808 closed hi-hat. Going back to this section here, you can see that that's all we loaded up, and that's all we're going to see. The more stuff you load up here, the more keys will show. Now, just like any of your modules, your 25 keys, whatever it is, you got your boxes with the drum pads, or if you have something, even a MIDI keyboard, your lowest, as long as you're sitting in this section of octaves, which is what it's always starting at, which I believe is C, your lowest keys are actually always going to be your available kind of drum pads. So as you can see, the first 2 here, I'm hitting and they were playing. So if I go back here, we can even see on this little map section, I'm actually hitting those. So we kind of know where our sounds are sitting is always good. When you build your own drum racks, it's totally up to you how you want to add your drums in there, where you want to place them. But as you notch them, your list of sounds is always going to go up the keys like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you know piano and you are reading this, these are actually notes, the notes going up on a keyboard. So the more you bring in this way, the third one here would be the third note here, which we don't have anything yet, but you see, that's what's happening. I'm hitting that note. If I was to hit the next one up, it's all playable. It's really seamless when it comes to the availability of putting your samples together, having access to them, and how to lay them out. So we will start by going back to our scene, and let's start to write one of our scenes. The first scene, I'm going to hit play on this here. This is your play scene button. Now we can watch, it's going to just do a 2 measure loop, and nothing is written here yet. You know, I stress the importance of writing MIDI, mainly because it's more efficient when you're working in Ableton. It allows you to keep things together and not have to put one sound on one track on your main tracks, where you're not going to have to like, oh, every one of my tracks need to be EQ'd perfectly. What you're going to be able to do in the drum rack is tighten up all your drums in the drum rack. You see, we have this little window right here, and this window allows you to do many things. Fade in your sample, fade out your sample, transpose it as transposing is going to bring it up a note, down a note. So if you want to change the pitch of it, it's very simple to do in this section, and it's all seamless because you never have to stop playing it. You can fine tune the timing of them. You can fine tune how short they're going to hit, how long they're going to span, when they're going to hit all your drums while you're listening to them in this one module. It's very simple. So let's go ahead and write the first one. We still have our play button going here on our first scene. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just double click. And now we're 120 BPMs. We have a 4/4 kick going. It's good measure when you are creating your scenes, because we do everything in kind of a accumulating form. So every scene down, I teach you, we're adding stuff. So we don't always have to start this way, but for shits and giggles, pardon my French, I'm gonna hit Command if you're using a Mac, or Control if you're using PC, Command R or Control R. That is going to allow you to rename your scene. Since this one has a kick, I'm gonna do capitals. Why is my capital button not working? There we go. I need a charge. So this one has the kick. Now, every time we add a new instrument in there, doesn't have to work this way. This is kind of just teaching you how things flow along. And ultimately, once we get to week 5, we move everything over into the sequence here, and you'll see just why we build our scenes this way. So I'm going to double click on this scene. Yes, I already have these hi-hats and stuff here, but that's okay. I'm going to duplicate the scene, because any scene that I create, it doesn't matter where it is going to have all the instruments that I put in this particular drum rack. We only have 2 right now, so we're only going to see 2. It doesn't matter where you write it in this particular track, it's always going to be there for you to add to. Now, I'm not creating a new scene. I can. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to just click on the scene, and I'm going to hit Command or Control D. Now that's going to duplicate our scene. So if we look at both of them, they both have kick. Now let's go ahead and play the second scene. It's going to be the same sound, and let's rename it hi-hat. We're adding in the hi-hat into this particular scene that we just built. Remember, we're kind of going to add things up rather than create one scene and then completely change to another scene, because how many scenes are you going to have one song that way when you're making completely different beats? You know, you can go from freestyle to, you know, with breaks to 4/4, kind of go techno, you can go hip hop, you can go abstract, but within one song, it's much more efficient to make everything accumulate into one another. So into the second scene here, okay, this is the first scene. Kick is not playing. You see, we're playing our second scene. We watch the line go across the grids, and let's go ahead and add hi-hats. Beautiful thing about Ableton, you really never have to stop. So now, kind of annoying. All right, so now we have our second scene with hi-hat. If I go back to the first scene, right, second scene, everything is going to move up into the next measure of which you click that scene. So it's never going to start off beat. It's always going to play in sync with everything else. It's a global quantization that Ableton runs, and it's a reason why I've been using it since 2007. Okay, now before I add any more instruments, I hear that hi-hat. It's a bit much. It's a little too loud for, you know, my liking at this moment. Well, let's click on the hi-hat track. See, that's what we're seeing right now. First thing maybe I'll click on volume, and I'll only turn it down a little bit. Yeah, cool, turn it down a little bit, but you know what? It's still got too much tail to it, too much flair for what I want as I'm building my music. So I have a couple different options here. I can actually take this play stop button on my hi-hat, and I can just cut it all the way down to nothing. So you see the little orange marker just keeps looping itself. It's a bit much, so I don't want to cut off that much, so maybe I'll stop it right here. Now when you stop it right here, it's not a huge change from hearing it right here, but that's okay. Maybe I wanted to dull that tail a little bit. So I'm going to turn this fade out up. See, if I turn it all the way up, it's very low. But, fine tune your hi-hat a little bit, you can just move it around here, kind of let it taper off the way you want it. If it's too much, not enough, you can totally compensate anything you're doing here. See, not too bad. You can also use the play start button to move your sample. So say you have a sample that you loaded up, but it didn't start right on the one here. You're going to have some dead air, which we'll find something in a moment to kind of go through that and show you guys. But yeah, you can start your sample whenever you want. You can end it whenever you want. You can even fade it in. So you kind of hear the middle of it because it's tapering up, tapering down. Now, this actually goes along with what you'll learn in future classes. If you don't already know about attacks and releases, this is the same concept. And in the beginning of this course, I did mention that, if you take the course, at the beginning of the course, you're going to see 1,000 buttons that Ableton has. But if you go through the course, you understand, you play with all the buttons, eventually you will get down to 100 buttons. And what I mean when I say stuff like that is this fade out and fade in, which tapers in and tapers out, is the same thing as attack and release, which you're going to see on different sound modules, different audio effects, side chaining. It's all relative. So you'll learn that one button or one knob actually does 3 or 4 different things. They just may be called something different. Envelopes, delays, sustains, releases, attacks. It's all relative in the formation and how you want to have your sound and its attributes, how you want it really to look. So I don't like that way. Let's move that back this way. Okay, still a little bit loud. Now we have a couple different options here. I can turn down the master volume on this sample, or when I go back into this scene, we have something down here at the bottom called velocity. Velocity is just like it sounds. Imagine you playing a piano and you play the key really freaking hard. Obviously, the sound is going to be a lot louder and more present. If you play them really light, that's what velocity is. It's the different pressure you apply to the instruments, the notes, the keys that you're hitting. When it comes to MIDI, you see how we can interchange sounds and timing and what we're doing where. When you understand that MIDI is simply commands. If you're a computer guy, you understand these are all ones and zeros. You're telling it what to do, when to do it, and you can manipulate it and make it sound however you want, whenever you want it. That's the beauty of using the drum rack, ultimately the beauty of Ableton. So we have, if you see, we highlight our hi-hats here kind of one at a time. You'll see at the bottom, they change colors. So let's say I want to change the velocity of 1 or 2 of these hi-hats so it gives it more of a human feel, doesn't sound robotic. Boom, chir, boom, chir. We're going to drop this one down, and we'll kind of mess with them a little bit so we can hear the difference as we're doing it. So we got the first, second, and fourth one a little bit lower than the third one. So we're kind of throwing an emphasis or stressing that third ba ba da da ba 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 ba. It's all about global groove. It's about swing, whatever you like to do. This is how we can do it. All right, let's move into a third scene. Before we do that, let's maybe add a clap. All right, we're gonna stick to our drum samples here that we have in our library. We'll open up clap. Oh boy, it's a little loud. All right. All right, I'm going to use this and then I'm going to taper it down because the tail end of it's a little too long. So I'm going to click the 909 clap. I'm going to click and I'm going to hold. I'm going to drag it to the third button. That's the D1 there. And if you see, as we add that, so we have it here. That's the third one. So same thing with any MIDI keyboard. You plug into Ableton. Usually it's just plug and play. It's seamless. If you like building your drums here, whatever, I'm not going to make a drum beat like that right now, but yeah, it's all on the it's like that on keyboards, it's like that on your MIDI modules. You just plug them in and you're going to find it. You can play all that stuff live. Here for efficiency purposes and kind of teaching how I would with the lessons, we're going to stick to kind of just double clicking and writing the MIDI. You know, there's ways to humanize our grooves a little bit to kind of throw timing off a little bit, and that's called swing. May not get into that right now because it can be a little confusing, but this at least showing you how we build this way. If you don't have a module, stuff like that, it shows you that you can truly make music with just having a computer in Ableton. Now, in 2000, I want to say 2015, 2006, 2015, 2016, I was a truck driver. I was over the road truck driver, and all I had was my I see you, Darren, over there. I see you got your blue parrot on over there, right? I see. I was going to ask you before. I know you right. So I worked for Werner, you know, at the beginning, but then I was a fuel hauler. But going over the road, all I had was my laptop, my trusty laptop. This is a 2011, believe it or not, right here. And I actually made more music with just having that because I knew just very proficient working this way, adding stuff. Everything's inside the computer. I didn't actually have to utilize guitars, you know, all these modules. Yeah, I ended up signing, no lie, we were throwing shit at the wall, pardon my French at this point, but 50 tracks we signed in 52 weeks. It's crazy. It's 1,000 labels out there. You know, it's just a matter of boom, half a day, finished tracks. You know, they're not, you know, award-winning tracks by any means, but that's what I mean. You can still get in there, lay in bed, work on music if you just have a laptop or a computer. So that's why I like to teach everything, kind of building all your drums and utilizing what you have inside of just using a keyboard and a mouse. Let's see. Okay, it's not going to work on this side. Okay. All right. So we've got our clap here. We are going to go ahead and click that scene, and we're going to hit Command D or Control D if you're using a PC, and we duplicated it. Now they look exactly the same, but if you look at our scenes now, we have the clap up here on the third key here. Same thing. Everything is all relative when it comes to Ableton. Music, most music production software, or DAW, digital audio workstations. It's just a matter of you paying attention and learning that everything is kind of connected. You know, it's all routed the same. Just a matter of, you know, you not looking at the program as a whole and seeing all these words, all these boxes, all these buttons, and saying, oh shit, I can't do this, because you can. I mean, you're here right now. Trust me, you can do it. All right, so we've created the next scene down, and we'll just Command R, Control R, and we'll just call it clap. Now, I'm naming them this way again because here we've added the kick. Here we've added the clap to the kick and the clap. Here the hi-hat, and then here we've added the clap, which is our third scene, which will have all of them eventually. So as I'm playing this one, I'm going to add the clap. All right. Oh boy, very loud. I'm going to first turn it way down. And like I said before, this one, we're gonna tighten it. And I can hear it start to shorten that sample, but it's a little too drastic. It might be cool for some bass house sounding like that, but let's go ahead and hit the fade out button. So kind of taper it off and a little bit easier on the ears. Let's say we didn't let's expand it. We just click the zoom button and drag it down. Let's say it's a little too much clap. We want to take off some of that sample. Well, you can move your play start to make it sound however you want. Let's say we like it there. All right, but maybe it's the wrong pitch. Transpose. We click the transpose button. Let's maybe. So realistically, you could change the pitch on all your drums to make them all fit in tune. Now it's a further down the line is showing you how to understand that your samples can be pitched in a way to where all your keys, your drums, your synths, your basses, your live instruments are all in tune. Not really going to get into it right now, but fit it how you like. And the beautiful part about doing stuff in the drum rack is the fact that you can add different sounds in there, and maybe your drums now take on a different feel, like you hear it a little bit different vibration. Well, you can retune everything you want and really make your sound special for you. So looking at this clap, I'm going to lessen the fade out. I'm going to shorten a little more and turn it back down. Okay. It is what it is. So we transpose that up a little bit. Let's bring it back down to 0. All right, now it's in its natural state. Next thing, before I add more, what you could do here, when you have a drum rack or any module in Ableton that allows you to add multiple sounds, you can click this downward circular button to expand that, like the umbrella. Now, what you can do here is you can EQ all your sounds from here if you wanted to. If you wanted to solo them out, you see what we're looking at here, we can kind of tell that that kick is a little bit loud, not too much. The way it's rumbling, it's not bad. But once you get into adding more stuff in there, you kind of want to dial it down a little bit. And with that, I'm actually going to go into the kick, and I want to shorten the boom of that kick. So shorten the sample, kind of. All right, now I'm making more room when I'm about to write some bass. So instead of spending too much time on the drum rack, kind of made it a little self-explanatory how we can do that. Obviously, we go in here and we can start adding some equalized effects or some sort of auto panning. You can do whatever you want. If you look at these C buttons here, these are for panning left and right. C obviously means center. If I was to drag it down, well, now we only hear that clap out of the right side, left side, stuff like that. You don't have to do it in here. This is a secondary mixing unit, which is you're going to be your main unit when you're using Ableton. But when you're stuck and you're using your drums and stuff like that, you have your drum rack section, which is its own kind of mixing unit because you can fade them in, fade them out, transpose. You can go from sample to controls here, and you can take each sample. So I'll even go to the kick, and then now I have my pan here. Now within the module, I just made my kick go all the way over to the left. So you have two different options as far as how you want to EQ and change the volume on everything. It's not a big deal. Random pan is cool. So if I go to hi-hat and I do a little random panning, now that's going to kind of do a randomized panning left and right. And the higher I do it, the more randomized it's going to be. Let's go all the way to 100. So here, listen to our hi-hat. Where the hell is it? It's over here. It's over there. Kind of giving your, right out the gate, you're giving your track life and soundscaping it. You're not just saying, oh, I'll get to that later, because a lot of people will just build on top of things. And when they don't have it correct, they're like, oh, I like it, but it doesn't sound right. So they throw things on top of it as if that's going to solve the problem. You don't really want to get into that because that's throwing shit at the wall. That's you trying to cover up what's not right. So when, the first 4 weeks of this course is you learning not just drums, but we're going to write a little bit of bass here. We're going to get a little melody. You're going to see just how this basic drum beat, after 2 more tracks building out, is going to sound like a grooving melody. But it's super important to learn MIDI as a whole, because that's what makes you a music producer, in my mind, it's truly opinion, to get in there and fine tune all your sounds to really say, hey, like this is who I am. I'm really expressing myself musically. It's just like if you had a paintbrush and paint in the canvas. You're doing it yourself. You're building your own stuff. So now that we've kind of built a drum rack here, let's go over to the next MIDI one, and we can even delete tracks. Just click on delete. It's so simple to build new tracks. If you wanted a new MIDI track, you command Shift T for track. And if you just wanted an audio track, just Command T. Command Shift T, Command T. It's just that simple to build tracks. Okay, we're going to build another MIDI track because now let's go ahead and write a bass note. So when you have your drum rack playing, you can always switch between what you're doing in these different scenes. If you just wanted to kick, like as you're working, or you want to switch it, this way. And let me switch back to this other screen real quick so you can see what I was talking about before with the APC 40. Okay, 1 second, everybody. Video, and I'm going to switch to this one. Okay, this is the APC 40. And actually, it's going to be annoying for a second because let me turn the lights on while I'm switching between them. My cameras don't like the focus. They don't like the autofocus when it's a blue light. It's too dark. So if you can see here, we have 3 scenes here, 3 lit up buttons. You see that? This one's playing. What do we have here? We have 3 scenes. If I was to double click and add a scene to this next track for what we're going to write, which is going to be bass, watch what happens when I double click up there. Boom. Now our scene's here. We can start that scene just like that. You could start, you could stop, you could play around, you could switch. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to switch back. Actually, why don't I just stay on the screen? I guess it doesn't matter. You don't need to see my beautiful face. All right. Oh, all right, let's do this. Bass. I'm going to go back to kick so you can probably hear me a little better without all those highs. And now we have MIDI, this MIDI track selected. Let's go back to instruments. Now from here, we can scroll down. Let's open up instrument rack. Let's open up bass. We're looking for a bass. And when you click on these one time, you can hear previews. Kind of what you want to use. And Ableton stuff is very, very basic stuff, but you can get into the modules as if they are your own preset analog machines and change everything on them. So when you listen to a preset sound, don't think of it as, oh, that's not the sound for me. It has enough attributes for you to utilize it to make it your sound. And I'll show you a little bit about that when we find one. Let's go down. Let's go with the house bass. So we're making kind of house right now. Let's see what we got with that. Now all I have to do is double click, or I can drag it and double click it. Okay. Now this module is not going to have this sample window section because in itself is just an instrument that you're not adding sound to. You're able to change the sound up by opening up these sections here, and you can see what really makes this sound. And as you play, oh, that's a little loud. Turn that down with my master volume here. Okay, so you can kind of see what's happening inside the tracks. We've got reverb here, which we can add to. Now, here is your main macro section, kind of giving yourself your own knobs to work with to fine tune things. You can always go in here. We don't have to just yet. Let's simplify it by keeping that closed. And let's see what these knobs do. All right, let's write something so we can kind of hear what we're we're doing. Let's see. Fine. Okay, I'm hitting this down here. Okay, just kind of playing around, building a quick little bass note. Now let's play with the knobs. This is more of a filter for an FM resonance sound, so it's kind of going to just take all the high end out of it a little bit and kind of make it a little more, you know, poppy and beaty. See, now that we kind of tightened up that kick, and so it's the 808 doesn't smash so long and have such a long sound wave to it, they kind of play together kind of good. You know, they kind of already have a little funky beat going down here. So just playing around here with this section. Oh, look at that. We're still going in and out of focus, aren't we? Okay, so we kind of tune this down. Let's just see what all these things do here. It sounds like it's got a secondary oscillation to it, and if we open this back up, we can probably see it. Okay, we'll find it kind of how we want it. Okay, we'll kind of stick with there. Let's see what the wave position's doing. Reverb kind of really makes it wet and kind of way out there. Let's see, time. Okay. All right, so what time is on this module is the same thing that release is on another module, which is also the same thing as fade out is on our drum rack. So you remember we had in here in our drum rack, we have a sample that we faded out. So doing that, we tapered it off. That's kind of the same thing here. What happens when you have instrument notes that you've written, when you use the fade out, the release, or what they call here, time, it's all the same thing. So now we've gone from 1,000 buttons to 997 buttons already in 30 minutes. See that? Let's rewrite this. Let's call it intro bass. It's whatever you want, doesn't matter. And maybe we'll just rename this for our own purposes and call it bass. Beautiful thing about using Ableton, you can color code it on your own. You know, if I right click here, if I wanted to make that bass green, then we just do it, you know. However it's going to be for your learning process to keep your things efficient, tight, really just a part of your, you know, Ableton should really be an extension, a body part extension. You know, the more you use it, the more it becomes just fluid. I learn something every day, but at the same time, I don't have to second guess so many things or kind of sit there stumped anymore, like, what happened? Because I'm actively renaming and labeling things in here. I'm changing the colors so that whatever it is in the brain that's activated by learning and remembering and kind of hearing certain sounds like bass and thinking green, okay, that's all going to help you in the long run obtain more knowledge about Ableton. But you have to have the dedication. You have to get in there, and you have to, you have to really want it. All right, so with the bass, we've messed now with what I said was time, release, fade out, all the same thing. So let's adjust that. If I put the time down all the way, it tightens it up a little bit tighter than what we're seeing here, which is okay. if we were to write it even shorter, if I highlight all these, it's going to make it even shorter. Okay, Command Z to undo, and let's go ahead and drag it out a little bit. Okay, what does mod do? Kind of gives it a hard attack, you know, not a heart attack, but a hard attack for this mod. Let's see, FM envelope. All little things here that are happening right here. If you see that FM, let's see, getting into these things, you can see what's happening when we turn this sort of stuff up, mod it, move it around. Okay, so if you see, the mod is affecting the sine overlay on this particular preset, I would call this audio wave build. You know, this is all stuff, it's going to be rocket science, and it's going to be, you know, another language until you kind of get in there and mess around with it yourself and kind of fine tune things. All right, we also have a sub gain, kind of taking out some of that low end frequency, anything below probably 60 hertz. Now, kind of, let's see if we can actually visually see that on our low end sub. Obviously, you know, subwoofer is always going to be the low end when you see something called sub. I'm going to go into audio effects now, and I'm going to open up an EQ8. All right, now we can kind of see what our sound looks like as pertains to the frequencies. If I add the sub gain, okay, I'll take it all the way down. This section right here really doesn't have a whole lot of play, a whole lot of presence, but by turning up that sub, we can see now it's really hitting on that low end. Depends, you can always change this stuff. You don't have to set this perfectly to how you like it. You know, because you're going to add more stuff into it. You may add another bass that actually has more sub play to it and play off the two. So that you can add now until, you know, until you find something else. And if you want something else, it's got plenty of room between the kick and the bass. You have a funky beat on, like, as far as dance floor ability. Okay, so when you're thinking about making music, it doesn't matter what type of music it is. Yes, vocals play a huge part in how the track is going to kind of work. Why is this still trying to? All right, I'm going back to the other screen. Hold on, it's still trying to focus. So, but when it comes to dance floor stuff, making stuff move, kind of bounce, you know, obviously I've had so many subwoofers in my cars in my life. I had to make sure the frequencies were right with the low ends. I had to make sure the kicks and the subwoofers were not at clashing frequencies, you know, and this is an easy way to go ahead and isolate certain sounds to make sure that they don't do it. Now, we're kind of in a good place right here with our 808 kick and this cool house bass to kind of move forward with maybe some melody. Let me change this back to here. Oh, that one's still doing it too, huh? No. Okay, it's good. All right. All right. So we kind of came up with fun little beat. Let's go ahead and play the next scene on it. So kind of progressive. This is the beauty of using Ableton in session view, which is what we're looking at now. The vertical portion of Ableton is called session view. This is you creating any amount of length loops on any amount of tracks you want to build your tracks. You can turn things on and off while you're listening to them, while you're adding stuff. And you even have the ability to map certain things. Like, let me show you. I'm gonna do two different types of mapping. As far as being able to turn things on and off without having to click, without having to stop. You can literally just use your keyboard or an external module. So if you want to do something called key mapping, and I'm going to show you by opening up Drum Rack here. So we have our on-off buttons. You know, these turn the tracks off. These are for our 3 drums that we have created. let's say I want to kind of like take the kick out, but I don't want to have to go in there. I don't want to have to click. I want to turn off. I don't want to have to think twice about it. I just want to hit a button and just continue moving from there. What you will do, you have two options. If you look at the up at the top right here, you have the word key. Now, if you turn this on, this turns everything orange. This allows you to assign the keys on your keyboard to activate as on-off switches, volume buttons, stuff like that. The other option of doing that is hitting Command or Control, if you're using PC, K. Command K or click key. So in doing so, what happens is, let's say we want to turn off the kick just by hitting the number 1 button. So I will first click so that this box is highlighted. This is going to be our on-off track for our kick. And I'm just going to click the number 1. Now we can actually see that the number 1 is sitting there, right there on top of the module, and it's assigned to now turn your track on and off. We can exit out by hitting the escape button, or go ahead and hit key again, or command key. Now, if I hit my 1 button, now I'm turning my kick on and off. And this is just you being able to go in there while you're working, just boom, 1, turn it off, mess with something else, make it sound cool. So listening to it, there you go, 1 is off, 1 is back on, 1 is off. It's that simple while you're working, to map things so that even though you're doing all this looping, you're spending 6 hours at a time grooving to your track, you're constantly doing something and playing with hotkeys here to kind of actually make your track sequence itself out. Just you're listening to it, and we'll get more. I'll show you a little more about that as soon as we get to the next track. But so let's say if I didn't want to map my keys, so on the keyboard here, I wanted to actually map one of my modules. This module has knobs on the top of it. So I hope this works. We're going to try this one more time going back. I guess I should stay there, but the camera doesn't seem to want to keep focusing properly. But whatever, it's you guys probably don't see it that large, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, at the top here are knobs. Okay, now if you have any MIDI module, most times there's knobs here. This is you're reading MIDI as a slave to the computer, which is the master. Whatever you tell it to do, it will do. You just have to assign it. So before we did Command K, oh, what just happened? I just lost the screen. Let me hit it again. Oh yeah, back. Sorry, I'm looking at myself, and we're back. Okay, sorry everybody. Okay, so back in Ableton, hitting the Command K will turn on the ability to map stuff to our keys. Like we did here before, we just mapped this on off for our kick to the number 1 button, and that's how that's working. Now, if we wanted to MIDI map, which is what I'm showing you guys here with this section, you have your whatever you bought, your axioms, your Akai pieces, whatever the hell it is, you can map now to your Ableton. So you can either click here at the top right, which is MIDI, it'll turn things purple, or you can hit Command or Control if you're using PC, M. So Command K is for key mapping, Command M is for MIDI mapping. Now let's turn on MIDI mapping. Now, when you use MIDI mapping, most times you are doing it because you have macros, or that's what Ableton calls the knobs. I like knobs, but they're literally called macros, M-A-C-R-O-S. So these are all macros. Just let's call them knobs for the hell of it, because unless anybody knows more than I do about Ableton, we're all just gonna call them knobs and call it a day, because that's just the way it is. Okay, let's say I wanted to map this knob to one of these knobs here on my module. If I click it so that it's in the brackets, and let's say I'll map it to my number 8 one here, now we can see there is up at the top here, we have the CC55. It doesn't matter what it's called, as long as you know what you're mapping and which one's going to work for it, then you are good to go. But now that we have mapped that FM amount, let's hit Command M or Escape or clicking the MIDI at the top right. And now, if I turn this knob, now our knob's turning here. So I'm going to solo this track. So you can see the FM is now mapped. And I'm going to unsolo it. Now let's say I wanted to turn off the kick. Oh, we got to take it out of there. All right, so just turn the kick off. That's simple to make your live session less repetitive just by doing a little bit of mapping. And we have what, 2 tracks that we've created. So you could literally, I mean, there's been times I've played around with just something like this all day, just for the hell of it. And let's say, just for another shits and giggles moment, let's map the timing as well. So I'm going to hit Command M again, and I'm going to click time, and I will map it to the one next to it. Doesn't matter which one it is, but I'm choosing that one. I'll hit escape. Just double check. Yes, that works for that. That works for that. Let's solo it so we know we're hearing. So that's the timing. I just created the first entire minute of a song just because I was playing around with the MIDI mapping and key mapping. See, it's that fun to use Ableton to be able to just play around and add things as you please. You know, just because we have 2 tracks looping right now, it does not mean we have to feel like we have 2 tracks looping. You know, get acquainted with Ableton. It will treat you right, I promise you. Okay, we're going to move on. Instead of write some more MIDI, we can always write more bass notes here too, but we'll move on to some melody. So from here, I want another MIDI track. So for another MIDI track, I'm going to do Command or Control Shift T to create a new MIDI track. All right, now go back to instruments. Let's close these things up so we're looking at it fresh. Okay. And we go to the instrument rack here. And let's choose. Oh, screw it. We'll go grand piano. All right, now, since I have the record button here. Okay, so I think we're in C, right? So you have a choice of playing out however you want it to. Oh, so I got to change the buffer size here. The more stuff you add, and I keep my buffer size really low for latency issues, but we'll move it up to 128 so that what we're hearing is right on time. So it started to lag a little bit, which is annoying. So if we wanted to start, if we were going to apply the same concept to our drum rack as pianos, because, you know, more likely you're going to have some, you know, multiple piano riffs going. Let's start with the most basic one first. So maybe I'll just, you know, I'll hit that note. So I'll hold it down and find it here, scrolling down, and there it is. So if I were just to play it, it's going to be a short note, but we can drag it out. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change the length. So maybe every 4 measures it hits. And let's drag it out to how long we like it. Let's hear it. Turn the volume down. And we'll go ahead and write here. Let's call it low C. All right, now let's look at the attributes of the piano. Change the tone, the brightness, the glue. Well, actually, I should have done this first, but let's add some reverb to it. Soft, hard. Remember, release, same thing as the time, same thing as the fade out. So if I turn it all the way up, just touch the key down. I realize that you guys probably can't see this here, so let's do that for now. So you see the release here, it's all the way up. Same thing as sustained. If I tighten it down, now if I turn the attack up, it's going to start later. Same thing as the fade out or fade in. Very basic stuff to get acquainted with, but all right, let's create the second one. I'm gonna hit duplicate on these, and I'm gonna move them over. Let's tune it. That's simple to write melody as well. If you have the keyboard here, you can find the notes, the pitches you like, and if you hold them down, you're going to see them in the MIDI scene. So you say, oh, I like that note. I like not that one, but what if now I'm going to duplicate the one we just created? What if I want that secondary? What if I want to move it down? Let's see. Let's change this one down here, here, and here. And I want to duplicate this one. Dun, 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 dun. Oh. I'll do this. Now let's play this scene. Okay, adding everything together now. Let's turn that kick off. So see, it's that simple to start adding things all together, just working around with different types of instruments, stuff like that. Now, what I've done here is extremely basic. Who doesn't choose grand piano on things? Who doesn't choose kind of a funky bass on stuff? Who doesn't choose 808s and sort of, like sounding percussion to work with in Ableton to create our own sound? It's super basic to do. Once you get the hang of it, it really shouldn't take more than 30 minutes to an hour for you to start building your stuff. Now, in the classes, what I'll do is for, let's say, the first, we'll say the first assignment I'd give you in the week is to manipulate, kind of duplicate what I have done here as far as building a cumulative drums in a progressing fashion. And that would be the first week, and it would show you certain things like I would say build at least 5 to 6, progressive drums in here. Make sure you label things and tighten your drums up to get them sound how you want. Just make sure when you are, uh, you're clicking down, down, down on your plays that they keep getting more filled up, so more progressive. And just a quick hint on why we do that. If I were to show you guys what's happening here in the sequencer, nothing at the moment, there's nothing written here. But if we were building our drums, let me stop this quick. Let's say I wanted to start with just the kicks, very basic. Now I have it labeled here for the first 8 measures. As you can see on our drum track, we have just laid out kick. Let's click, and the way you do this, you click and hold and hit the tab button. Tab will take you between the 2 different visualizations of Ableton, and then you can just drag between the screens. And the beautiful thing about doing MIDI when you're building your drums is you can actually see all your drums. I mean, you can see all the commands that you have built now, because if you look here, everything's laid out. And if you didn't, for some reason, label them properly, you can kind of see, oh yeah, this one's got one, happening less often. It's probably the clap track. It's a beautiful thing as well, because if you go back into here on our scene and you can see this view in whatever screen you're in, whether it's session view or sequencer, you will see that by double clicking, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, everything's visually there for you to learn and understand. So you're not just making music and feeling the sound, but you're mathematically understanding it as well. And if you can get that down, and trust me, I do everything I can to make you guys understand it this way, you will really gain the ability to even go out in your everyday life, whether you're in the car or you walk into a shopping mall and you hear music, and you start to be able to pull things apart, what you hear, because as you're building the music, you're obviously separating tracks, and the fact that you can listen to your sounds one at a time, which you can do in any software, or as your 4-track, 8-track, 16-track recorder. But the more you do that in this area, this section, and you're turning things on and off, the more your brain is separating sounds and understanding what's happening in between. So if you go and listen to music anywhere else, you'll be able to dissect those things the same way. Now, I'm saying this from a standpoint for anybody who has never in their life even tried to make music. So that's where I go. I go right to as basic as I can to teach you guys certain things. But if it's an understanding and this is per student, the level of their knowledge, sure, it might be on a different level that I would explain something like that, because if they already understand that concept, if they've already made music in their lives, this is all just going to be the same knowledge that they already know in their head, but looking at it from a different point of view. So the biggest part about making music is learning what music looks like. Is that right? I don't know. I mean, don't quote me on that, but that sounds kind of a sounds kind of like a layered fabric of what it is when you're dealing with musicians. I don't know, but all right. So going back to what we're doing with the sequence, now that we have built our drums here, and just like in our scenes, we can go back here and watch as our as our line scrolls across, everything is a linear format. It's left to right, just like reading a book. I'm going to fast forward to here. Now hi-hat kicks in. So writing your music, obviously, if you've done it before, you're going to understand this. And it may, for the first few weeks when you're working in this screen, you're going to be like, oh my God, you might say to yourself, God, when are we going to move over to the sequencer? I've been doing this for so long. Well, I got to hammer in MIDI and understanding a lot about it. I'm barely scraping the surface of what the capabilities of writing with MIDI are. when it comes to any sort of genre of music. But if we were to just jump over here and start making our music in the sequencer, start adding stuff here, well, you're going to be doing this a lot longer of a song, trying to loop things, and then you're like, oh, I don't know, right here in this area it doesn't sound good, I got to add stuff. But if you can kind of build the meat and potatoes of your song in this section, then you are going to be able to have a huge grasp on what your track actually is going to be. And if you do that, once you get it over here and lay it out, then you go from the first part of creating MIDI in your session view to sequence everything out, and then third is automating and fine tuning everything and adding those little shot noises, those little extra noises, sounds, vocals, stuff like that to your song. So it really is a process that we teach at the Beat Music Academy to get you to understand things one at a time. And as the curriculum goes, each week is going to teach you the way you are going to actually learn to make music. I'm not going to jump from starting to build melody in here to sample integration or mix down and mastering. It's important to walk up that hill. You can't just start at the hill, jump up to a cliff, and then jump back down, stuff like that. It just doesn't seem proficient for learning what it is when you're working in Ableton. And I can't say I'm an expert or anything. I have been using it long enough to know that I've been able to teach people successfully for many years how to do this. And I learn along the way too. I learn along the way as well. It helps me helping other people because I understand more about everybody and how their different type of learning curve is going to be, which allows me to then future teach more people with ease and make me sound less like an idiot. I'm not there yet though, obviously. All right, so back to the sequencer. Let's say we want to drop this bass coming in, say 9 measures. So we got 8 measures without it. So we'll bring this bass coming in with this hi-hat, and we can, because it's a loop, we can drag this out as long as we want. Let's say we wanted the bass to play throughout the entire song, which isn't what we're actually going to do, but let's say, let's say, just call it, yes, it's house music, but we'll say our track's going to be, 4 minutes and 15 seconds long. Yes, we have it all laid out there if that's the only bass we're going to write. You can always add and then subtract things away. Well, let's say, at a certain point, we didn't want it. So just literally highlight it and delete it. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to have all your MIDI, and you can see the MIDI notes here, just like you saw the MIDI notes here with the drums. Whereas if we were working with audio, let me see, I will drag an audio sample in. Drum samples. I'm going to find an open hi-hat. And to do that, I got to go way down here to O. Let's see how our track sounds for this one. Ooh. All right, we're going to use this one. Now, if we were just wanting to take our sounds and put them in audio, we can do that. And in doing so, all you have to do, one of two things. You can go ahead and Command T to create a new audio track. Or when it comes to samples, and this is sample integration, you're just going to drag it into an open slot, and it creates an audio track for it. Now we have this raw sample. What do we do with it? So if we play it, we realize it's only going to play once, and that's going to be the end of it. This play stop button is going to stop. See, now it's done. Now, let's say, and I think, Darren, you were talking about samples a little bit, and you learned a little bit about getting them set up in the looping and the play timing of them. So that's what I'm going to just kind of show you guys right now, because you don't have to do MIDI. I like to stress MIDI because it is very important. If you wanted to do all your sounds separately, you can do that too. And this is the way we're going to do it, but it's still super important when you're starting to build a track to work in session view so that it keeps looping. You can keep tightening it up to work with your other loops. You're not at the mercy of having to listen to all this here to make sure it fits. So I'm going to play all these. All right, let's make sure they're playing. Now what I want to do, because the sample is only hitting one time, I am going to go ahead and click the warp button. The warp is going to, I'll put it on a grid, and putting it on a grid allows it to be quantized, allows you to actually create a loop for it, which we'll click next, so that it will play again. Now, the sample itself isn't going to loop perfectly. Many do not when it comes to dropping samples in, because samples are only the length of the sound for the most part. So if we were to play it, that's hitting closer to triplets than anything else. So all we have to do is look at the length of our sample, and let's, for the hell of it, well, let's just create an entire measure. So I just brought this length of the MIDI scene up to 1, just so we can have it. Now from here, we can do whatever we want with it, extend it longer, make it shorter, but at least we can kind of drag our loop stop button here to know where we want to keep it looping. So let's say 1.2, hi-hats happen the exact opposite times, more or less, that a kick would happen. And kicks happen every quarter measure. So 1 or 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Now I know this for a fact, this is going to hit the same time as the kick. So I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to move the scene play button to make it play on time. Okay. So what I initially did there was I said, no, I don't like you. You may be the beginning of the sample here, but I don't need you playing there. I need you playing from here. So it starts at the halfway part and it goes back. You can do this with any one of your samples. And you can time them however you want. You can create triplets where you're doing like dot, 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 dot. Triplets are fun to use with certain toms, kind of scratchy noises, and maybe we'll get into that in a moment. But when I tell my students, push all the buttons, turn all the knobs, it's because I want you to mess around with everything. That includes timing of your loops and stuff to understand where the plays starts and the, how long you're going to loop it. Like if we were to loop it at, half time, now that's the time of a clap. Like if we were to start the sample here, right, doesn't sound like it, but if I was to play halfway through it, and now, see, no good. So we bring it back down to how it should be. We set it up already, and we'll push the play halfway through it where it needs to be. And now we're on point as far as hi-hat goes. Now, the sample itself, you can still do stuff like you can do in drum rack, but not as well. It actually takes up more PC, like the RAM, the more things you do as far as automating stuff like I'm going to show you right now when you are using audio instead of MIDI, because everything here is in the drum rack, everything's preset already and using the maximum MIDI power or CPU power that it needs to account for every one of these knobs, like fade in, fade out, which is what we're going to do here. So let's say, this hi-hat needs to be tapered off a little bit. Obviously, it just ends right here. It's kind of abrupt. But yeah, when you're dealing with drums, you always change your warping style to beats. This is all, in the curriculum, so I don't want to go too deep into all of that. But now if I switch over to the side, which is the multi-diagonal arrow buttons, this is kind of your automation set, and you'll actually find it over here as well. So if I wanted to automate things as far as like right down, like a low end to come in, stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Whatever you have as far as audio effects here, you'll be able to automate. And Let me turn this off here. You'll see these things are automation lanes. This is how, let's say, for instance, I wanted to turn, oh, somebody just joined. Okay. Let's see, for instance, I wanted to just turn up the volume on the whole drum track. Now, this is not something you're normally going to do, but I'm just showing you automation because we're about to kind of automate that sample in the other screen here. So with automation, if whatever you click on here, if you see this mixer track panning, this mixer track volume, this mixer speaker on. Now, if we had different effects on here, let's say, let's throw in EQ on our drum rack. Well, now you also have the ability to click stuff here, like the frequency of this particular frequency point. And now we're looking at EQ8 frequency. These are all lanes that you can write stuff with, but let me show you how we write it. Let's just say, for the hell of it, I want to change the volume. And just so it sounds a little better, we'll actually go down to drums and change the volume of the drum or the bass. Let's say this is the maximum volume of the bass is showing. So let's like keep it there. We just click and we create a point of automation. Well, let's create another point. Let's just drag it down. So now at this point early in the track, wherever the track, the cue is located, let's say right here, it's at the 9th measure, we can see we have nothing. This is zeroed out. You're not going to hear anything. It's negative infinity, whatever this thing is. Yeah. So now as the track plays, watch this section here on the volume, and you'll see, because we automated the volume up, the volume will come up with the bass. See that? You can automate as many things as you want, as many times as you want. Let's just say, for the hell of it, let's take out some of the low end. So I'll click, we have the low end on, we'll click frequency here. Let's double check EQ8 frequency. I want to add an automation lane so we can see the both of them doing things differently. And let's say we wanted to bring the low end in. So this is the bottom, the lowest part of that frequency we want to utilize. So let's say, for the hell of it, let's kind of have it start a little higher so we don't hear it as much. So now, okay, so now we have our mixer of track volume coming up, and we have the EQ is going to give us some more bass, some more low end as this track progresses. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. We'll see, once we get here to this point, we're at the maximum volume we set it to, but then we'll still hear more low end happen here. All right, it's at the volume, but now we're adding more volume or more low end to it. See? You can write this stuff any way you want. It's applicable for anything with a knob or a button in Ableton. For any one of these tracks, you can automate whatever you want, whenever you want. So let's go apply that to our hi-hat that we had just created. Let me hit play on these. Okay. So when we're trying to make drums and we're utilizing one wave for an audio track, instead of writing everything inside of the drum rack, which is over here, it's all in here, but it's all inclusive. This is a solo track by itself, but we want to do automation, kind of like what we did here. Well, if we click over to this section, we go from looking at our time warping abilities over here to the clip. Now this is automation for whatever we set it to. Well, let's say the clip itself, that's this clip, okay? And we want to change the gain on this clip. So this is going to be the volume for the clip. Instead of letting it just play out loud like it is, where it's kind of messy, now let's write a point of automation And then we'll write another point animation just by clicking. Now let's kind of fade it out. So just like what we were doing with our tracks here, with the fade out, the fade in. So our hi-hat. So before, originally the hi-hat was a little louder, played out a little more, but we tightened it up. That's the same concept as what we're doing with an audio track by fading it out, by writing the automation for it. We have the proper parameters highlighted, which is our clip and our gain, and we just scrolled it down so we can do it even more. We can cut it out more. Oh, come on. Oh, right, too much there. Oh, well, obviously we're not going to hear it because I have this one soloed. All right. Okay. So now this is all the gain, changing the gain on it. You know, make it yours, make it have the attributes you wanted to. You can even do like the fade in and do play like that. It's all about whatever's under here is what you're going to hear, highlighted in blue. Write it however you want. The sky is the limit. So let's just say we like it like that. So let's play a little with the track. Let's say it's a little too loud. Just turn the track volume down on it. And you can always adjust all your volumes here by clicking the left angled triangular button that you have here, and this will just change the levels. And you don't even have to look at the screen for it. Let's go back to here so we're not even seeing that. This is just your master volume for each particular track. Well, let's say for the hell of it, we wanted to kind of give that hi-hat some life. We can go over to our audio effects and click, let's do some auto panning. Now we can choose auto panning to go through. You know, Ableton has a lot of presets of stuff that's kind of fun to go through just to listen. But we're going to start with a fresh default one. Now, because this is set to 0 on the amount, we're not going to hear anything yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn up the amount and I'm going to change the rate of the panning left and right, back and forth. So let's turn the amount up. So it kind of jumps back every one of them sort of. Now let's change the rate. Let's say at that point that's a little extreme, but you know, if we bring in the pan, so it only is panning very little in the center, well, now it actually kind of sounds good. But now we have just done something to pull our track away from this robotic automation feel and made it more humanized, because now our track is moving. You know, it's important when you're building stuff to add little effects like auto pan to make your track, it gives it soundscape. You know, it's very important that excuse me, that all your sounds aren't hitting at the same width, you know, left and right, because it's going to sound very basic, very blocky. It's going to have no life to it. You know, when you are painting a picture here, you don't want it to look like every other basic photo or a stick figure, right? You want it to express how you think it feels beautiful. So little things just like auto panning, even just on the hi-hat, we'll slow it down a little bit, gives your track life. Whereas sometimes when it's hitting over on the right side a little bit, now this hi-hat you can hear a little bit more in this ear. When that hi-hat is tuning over this way a little more, that hi-hat here you can hear a little more in this ear. It's just about tricking people's brains as well as your own to thinking that the track is more full than it is, because you went and kind of just created a lot of little zingers left and right and automations. And I don't know if I'm going to get into compression here today, because we only have about 20 something minutes, and compression is a whole different ball game. I don't even get into that till week 4. But yeah, kind of go to show you guys kind of just building a basic beat. You know, for this one, actually piano, the second one was what do you call that? It had one chord to it, hitting 2 times. We just call it one chord. This one has 2 chords. Can't spell today. Okay. Wow, imagine that. All right. But like I was saying, super important to visually know what you're looking at to choose what you're hearing. So I mean, if I was like, oh, you know, I wanted to hear 2 chords play instead of that low C note, obviously I know where to find it. I know how to play it. Back to 1 chord. Turn that 1 off. Now we got our kick out again. We're over here messing with the bass. So much you can do just by knowing how Ableton works. This auto pan effect that we just did on our hi-hat is a very similar effect. Basically the same thing as if we went back to our drum rack and what we learned before with this hi-hat here. We went over to the control section of the window and we did random panning. I don't know if you remember that, but if I set that random panning to 100%, it got really weird. So hi-hat, it's over there, it's back over here. It's too much. It's the global amount of it. It's like, hey, this is what you're doing 100%. Whereas when you bring it down a lot, it's like, hey, you know, maybe we'll jump over here this time, but you know, I'm not going to force you to do it. So it's kind of, it gives you a little bit of play with the different instruments in the drum rack, which is an auto pan, random panning. Now, it's the same thing here, kind of left and right. And you can change the attributes of this too. Let's say, let's turn it up. Let's say we want to do this crazy module here. Well, it's going to give you this weird sound because sometimes it's hitting left, sometimes it's hitting right. It's the blockade of whatever it wants to be. It's kind of the same thing as the random panning on the other thing. You can change the rate of it. It's going to change kind of as it wants to, and it's going to be a little confusing, but sometimes that's good depending on the instrument and the type of music you're making. Here, it's a lot sharper. Kind of cool too to use stuff like this if you are wanting to make it sound wider. If you wanted the particular sound to be hit faster and wider. But it's still kind of messy, so we'll stick with this here. There we go. And I got back to what I had originally just by continually hitting Command Z. So now that we've created 4 tracks, 2 for drums, 2 for instruments, let's do ourselves a favor. Let's bring the hi-hat over here because it's part of percussion. Now, if you want, you can make it the same color. What the hell color is that? What would you call that color? Is that like dandelion or something? Mac and cheese? I don't know. But let's just say for like-minded sounds, like-minded colors. Now, if anything else I have in the bass range, I can do a separate shade of green. So I'm going to Command Shift T. Let's say I'm going to plan on making another bass sound in there. At any point in your process, you can choose even the same color for bass, or maybe like a little off, you know, this is going to be a little lighter bass. Well, then it's a little lighter green, and it's going to create the same color there. Excuse me. So We'll go back in and kind of create some maybe satellite sounding bass that hits every once in a while. Or if we have time, I'll do a sub bass and I'll show you how we sidechain and compress things. So since there's no poll going on here, and I guess it's dealer's choice, I will show you a little bit of compression and sidechaining to kind of understand where people get a wobble with their sounds. So their bass and their kick are hitting opposite each other, but it's creating the sound of this just bouncy feel. So we will go back to instruments. Let's close it up. So we're looking at it from the beginning. And we will go to instrument rack and bass again. Let's find a bass that maybe has a lot lower sub attributes to it so that we can achieve what we're talking about here. A little too low though. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's called basic subroom. Why not? So I double clicked on it, created the subroom track. If I were to play it, exactly what you're gonna get. That's fun. So okay, let's create something. Yeah. All right, let's go back down to the basic sounds here. Focus on our low end, because remember, the low end is the backbone of your song. It's what's going to make people's feet move. So we're even going to turn off the other bass for now. And let's just hear what the kick and the bass offer together. Now it's a bit intrusive, you know, it's a bit much at the moment. Actually, want to. We'll keep it there. All right. Now we're going to add compression, and with compression, the way to do so is going back to your audio effects rack. Remember, manipulating any sound that's not in the module with reverb, echo, all that stuff is going to be in your audio effects. We are going to literally just double click on compressor. Now, you know, for shits and giggles, I'm going to do something that we call a ghost kick. I want to sidechain my track to a kick that is not the one you're going to hear. If this makes sense, we're going to shadow our kick with another kick. It's going to play the entire time, but this is where we're going to sidechain things to, because this particular track has more than just a kick in it. So when you do your kicks like this, you necessarily cannot sidechain just into a subtrack. It just doesn't work that way. So I'm going to quickly do like we did here with this open hi-hat, and I'm going to create drum samples. Let's go back up. There's a lot of samples there. Let's go back to find the kick. Actually, I'll find that same kick we had was right there. I'm going to just drag it over into here. Remember, we warp it first to put it on the grid, loop it so that it'll keep playing, and kicks happen 1/4 of every measure when you're doing a 4/4. That's what a 4/4 means, 4 kicks. Okay. And we are going to at least listen to it. Obviously, that's our kick. Now what we're going to do, before we do anything else, let's label that thing the ghost kick so we don't forget. Okay, this is a kick you're never going to hear, like you're never going to see it, you know, but it's there. And it's what you will sidechain your compression on all your other tracks to. This is a way to keep things clean. I like to actually, as far as it being a ghost, I like to put it at the very beginning, and then I like to minimize it. It's playing. I know the play thing's on, but we just turn the track off. Now it's always playing. And I'll show you in our compression to know it's playing by going to our sub bass here. So right now our compression is on, but it's not sidechained to anything. I'm going to turn this EQ off. And now if I turn sidechain on, and what are we sidechaining from? The ghost kick. Okay, now typically once we sidechain it properly, we'll see the kick coming up here. But because it's not playing, we're not. Now we're going to hit play, but we're not going to hear it. Remember, that's the ghost kick. Here it is. See? Now we know we are compressing to our ghost kick, but in order to sidechain it, we have to take the threshold, and there's a couple different views to see this from. Now, I'm going to do it from the simple A to B view, basically, for gain reduction purposes. But if I were to slam this all the way down, now we can see and hear that our kick is happening underneath the time, or sorry, our bass is happening underneath the time the kick happens every time. What if that doesn't make sense the way I say it? Let's go over to the screen, and we can actually see it's almost like surfing the wave, okay? Let's turn the threshold back up, which is the same thing here. I'm going to do it with this knob here. Let's go back up to the top. We see our track is playing. It's not compressing under the kick at all, but as we slowly bring it down, you can see it starts to dip, and you can start to hear the bass come in and out as the kick is playing. Now, for reference, let's just turn on the track that it's shadowing, which is the kick track. All the way up. It's just playing over the top of it. Let's bring it back down. So now we have this wobbling feel that leaves our kick being the master of the track, but the bass is playing along with it. Said, okay, I'll play your game, but you know what? I'm going to come up in between and show them what I can do. And you can change these things. We got releases and attacks here. The only thing that's different when it comes to releases and attacks in Ableton is when you're talking about compression. When it's drum rack, your release and your attack is like your fade in, your fade out. So this would be your attack, and this would be your release. But you're flipping it backwards when it comes to compression, because you're saying, hey, I want to attack it fast. We turn it higher, it's actually going to attack it faster when normally it's going to attack it slower. It's just it's kind of a 180 thing, because you're trying to counteract what you're doing. This is the only time that these knobs will be different when you're in Ableton and you're looking at things like fade in, fade out, your attack, your release, delay and decay, sustain, stuff like that. Or I think we saw on this track here was time. Yeah, time is also a release. But when you're dealing with compression, it's going to be opposite. So let's bring it all the way down so we can kind of hear. It's really slammed on it. It's not making any headway between that kick, but kind of give it a little bit of room. Now we got some wobble. Let's turn other tracks on and kind of see how it plays with this particular setup for the EQ. A little too much still, so let's bring it up. Man, forget these hi-hats. See, now, if I don't know what you're listening to on, but you can hear now we have this fun rolling wobble because we wrote with our sound, but it's still at the mercy of the kick, which we sidechained it to. So it's a fun way to make your song more danceable. And this goes for any genre of music. If we were to change it, we don't have time to change it up to like a 3/4 to make it hip hop sounding, but if we do another class, I'd probably jump into making hip hop beats instead of something like this. But so the more you mess with the threshold, tighten it down, the more you can really get that sub to kind of just, it's more of a feeling than what you hear. And that's kind of what sub is. It's subsonic. So sub sound is for simply moving a low end. It's something that, low end frequencies, humans, I believe, can only hear as low as like 30 hertz. But when you look in here at our EQ8 section, I'm going to put it before here. A lot of this is happening, and I'm going to go ahead and make this slope here so we can see for our low end. There's a lot of juice down here at the low end. If we see this thing is set at 30 hertz, humans normally, there's a lot you can't hear below 30 hertz, but this thing is at its peak down here. You see, this thing's doing what it wants. Whereas if we brought it up even this high to 84 hertz, which is not much, we have practically nothing. Strictly a subtrack, strictly something that you would use as far as the movement of your track. Kick, bass go hand in hand. Kick, bass, subtrack. It's all for the motion of your music. Hi-hats, tom, stuff like that. That's what gets people's hands moving in the air. But the what they do with their feet, it's the same thing like frequencies, man. Kick, bass is low frequency. That's the low part of the body. That's what moves down here. The higher up you go, you get Latin music. You got tom stuff in the mid-range section. That's what these people doing salsa, stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy how relevant frequency charts and just what you set and what you perform, or what instruments you utilize with your music move what part of the body and make music what it is. I mean, this is really a music theory sort of situation, but really it's relevant to what you choose to create. Now, I know we didn't do any toms today, kind of want to get things rolling with it, and toms are filler sort of filler pieces for your drum. When you get kick, clap, hi-hat, those are the three basic sounds that you use to make it more or less a regular drum. So that's what we have for this evening, with the start of creating drum racks. Kind of told you guys what to do as far as putting your drum loops and one-shot noises into your own Ableton user library. We covered that. We covered creating hi-hats or any sort of instrument on its own. We did that with the ghost kick as well as the hi-hat here. These are just audio tracks. We create a little bit of bass, move things around, shows you what it looks like if you're looking at it and playing piano with it, where you can see it and kind of hold the notes down and then write it from there. We went down for MIDI length, stuff like that for your scenes to kind of change up the timing on things. We did a little compression and side chaining work, and we wrote a little bit of piano. All right. I'm open for questions, or you guys want to talk about any of this, please feel free to ask away.
No, I'm good. I'm waiting for the mixing part myself. No, I get it. A lot of the things that you showed, I like the trick that you did with the drum, with the drums, the kick, the hi-hat, and the clap. That's a very good idea. And I was trying to figure out how to separate each one of them when you put them on a drum rack, so I could adjust each one of them, but you just showed me out. So that helped me out a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And creating different scenes for them, for the timing, for you, I would say get into doing you have the module, but also you have your keyboard. Get into doing MIDI mapping, like I showed before. If I did a MIDI mapping and I wanted to change this piano brightness, you turn on the MIDI mapping and then you click on whatever noise you want to modulate and you assign it to whatever knobs you have there. So now we have it written. So now our piano is doing this. Do that for your
Okay.
drums as well. Go into your uh open up your drum rack. See, we know our kick
Right.
is here. Let's
Now that's key mapping.
Yep, that's key mapping, right? So
Right.
we've already key mapped the kick there. We just hit Command K. Or if you don't want to do that, you don't remember hotkeys, all this stuff is right up here as well. So
Right.
key and MIDI mapping. Make sure you click on what you want to map first, and then go ahead and do it. Like, let's say for the hi-hat, I'm going to click that one and I'll hit 2. Let's say
Right.
for the clap, I'll hit 3. So now,
Right.
yeah, so now, and let's solo it. I have, if I hit all 3, well, now they're all off. I can just turn 3 on for claps.
That was something
2.
else I was trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
You know,
So
even though my controller, I could do it from the pads, but you know, being able to do it from the keyboard, that's a whole new dynamic right there, and that will free up me trying to put so much on my controller because I'm still learning it. That's
right.
good, right?
And this in Ableton, it's not, you can do this stuff in sort of stuff in Logic and Pro Tools, Cubase, all these things, but how easy and fluid it is to do these things in Ableton, not even have to stop and to hit, to stop your music while you're doing it,
Right,
is really an essential part of why Ableton is so user friendly. And like I said before, you're gonna have originally, if you start this class, you work on this, and I'm gonna give you guys the link in a second. Actually, it's www.abletonproduction.com. Let's see. Let me go ahead, and if you guys want to learn more, watch the demo. I'm gonna put it up here on the board just a second. Right. Gonna minimize this a little bit. Okay, abletonproduction.com. You can create a login, and then scroll down. You can see everybody who is involved with the community here. If you wanted to learn to DJ, Valentina and Alan are both wonderful teachers when it comes to that. I
okay,
strictly do Ableton, but going in here, you can. And I know she's on here. Let's see. You can't click on me. Let's see, DJ's level, create, vocalist, musician, master. Oh, here we go. James, we go down. Okay, watching the live demo at the bottom, just put in your information for us. You can request a call, and we'll give you guys whatever time you want to. We'll schedule it, and then we'll have a call about joining our class and
okay,
get all that rolling. But yeah, create a login, kind of see what this website's all about. We are the Beat Music Academy. We're based out of St. Petersburg, Florida. I don't know
okay,
where you guys are, but yeah, this is if you're interested in anything beyond this class here, abletonproduction.com. And
okay,
yep, there's a 6-minute video that you can watch. And Valentina, I edited the demo. Is the new demo on there? If not, it's a 7-minute video. I took out a little bit of the about me section.
okay,
People don't really care about me.
Yeah, it's the same demo. You fixed it and I fixed it, so it's
Perfect.
all good to go.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, now you should have to go to I have to go to the Ableton site.
Right. So if you want to download that at least 30 day trial, go to ableton.com. The actual, we are abletonproduction.com.
All right,
But we are affiliated as far as being able to offer you 50% off for students if you join our class. You'll see that on Ableton, their website, that if you are a student or a teacher, you have the opportunity to get that 50% off, which we offer if you take the course.
But more than anything, the value is in Rob himself and his feedback sessions, because it's very easily to be discouraged by amount of information that the music production brings. And those feedback sessions, they definitely very helpful, because he will not leave you hanging.
Right.
He will always be there to help you, because you will struggle. Everybody struggles. It's a lot of information.
Absolutely. You know, like I said before, I'll get with you guys on any level of your learning, and I'll keep explaining things patiently because that's just who I am
Right.
until you grasp it. Because I don't want to leave anybody behind. We go week by week. We learn a few things at a time, and we make sure that each week before the weekly feedback sessions with the class, or as if you're a private student, it's always a one-on-one, which students actually get the most benefit out of doing one-on-one sessions with me, because it's, you know, you send me the track you're working on, and I will literally just work on your you know, with you on your track the entire time. Whereas if you are with the class, you know, questions you may not have somebody else may ask is beneficial, but you know, you're going to get more out of also booking, you know, one-on-one sessions, which you can do in abletonproduction.com.
I got you. I got you. I basically that's why, like I said, I have intro. That's it's 16 tracks, and I'll use nowhere near that. Um, for like basic simple beats, maybe a sample here and there, and I'll probably use one, maybe two tracks for my vocals because I do spoken word. And that's, you
Okay.
know, I just want something simple like that. You know, that's another reason why I'm not in a big hurry to go and get Sweet.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like learning the finer points, the
Well,
finer points.
so it's Ableton Lite that you have right now. Is that what it's called?
No,
Ableton Lite?
intro. It's
Intro.
intro.
Okay.
Yeah,
It allows you to render out, you know, your projects as well, export them
yeah.
to. Oh,
Oh,
good,
of
good, good,
course,
good, good.
of course. And like
Good.
I said, and I just stuck because I put some loops together, and I tried to pan them. I tried to pan them best I could, and I did some vocals over this past week. And I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool, you know. Um, and that's pretty much where I'm at. And I'm going to be doing more of that for my own projects because I'm trying to get into voiceovers.
Okay.
That's real.
Oh
You
yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I
Yeah,
do. I do.
yeah. I'm only
Uh,
looking for, and I already met a nice young lady who works. She works for Pixar, and
wow.
it's like, yeah, if I can catch her in the village one good night, and we continue to talk, you might hear me on a cartoon.
Oh, I
You
love that.
you just need one cartoon, just one. That's all I'm looking for.
It's awesome because you know, I myself, I listened as a truck driver, you know, for many years. I listened to countless audiobooks, and knowing the cadence and the type
Yeah.
of voices that you hear, what I want to listen to was obviously probably tuned more to some Stephen King novels,
Okay.
or you get just the old British guys talking with you know, something that's going to suck you in but not dry you out. A lot of people, I think it's important, you know. I don't know if you think my voice is, you know, good enough to listen to for the
Yeah.
sessions that we have here. You know, I
Right.
try, this is just how I talk normally. But yeah, all the videos are tuned this way. I try to edit them so that we work in, you know, and you can watch them on YouTube, if you're part of the class, but they they work in the style of you working left to right, start to finish. I'm not jumping
Okay.
around with things, you know. And the fact of the matter is, when you're part of a course or you're doing solo tutoring with me, I'm usually available, you know. So we're on WhatsApp, or you got to text message me, you know, message me directly. I'm usually up, and I can answer certain things. And if it's a little more complex than that, it's nothing for me to go into my OBS software right now and just record a quick clip video for you in Ableton while I'm speaking for like,
Right.
so that I can do exactly what you're asking, answer your
Oh,
question that
okay.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's like you said, it's about getting in there, turning the knobs, and
Dedication.
yeah, you know, again, like I said, I'm 60 years old, but my musical tastes go back. I come from a very strange musical journey. I started back in the late 70s, early 80s, the clubs in Manhattan, New York, right?
Yeah.
But then in the late 80s, I married a singer who was a musician. She had a record, man. And so I got a whole new dynamic on music. And that's pretty much where it started. So like I was telling you earlier, when she purchased the 16 VS 1680, I didn't know anything about recording. I'm used to using cassettes, hit record, boom, it's good. Nah, that was a totally different animal. But I did manage to mix and somewhat master her only CD.
That's
So
well, really, it's about you just being there, part of it, and doing what you think sounds good. I never took a lesson for anything. I have 7 guitars I played my entire life. I never took a lesson, but today I could pick it up and do whatever just because was there in the moment making it. I was there with the tools I needed, putting it together, editing it,
right,
stuff like that, which is what you're doing, which is
yeah.
what music is being there
And
with the
now,
tools and the sounds.
and it's not, I'm not forcing myself. It's not a job. I have an enjoyment for it.
Sure.
That's really what it is. I really enjoy it, and
I truly am blessed to be able to do this. And
yeah,
I never thought in my life that I would be teaching more than just friends, who come over and do stuff like that. And it's really helping me. And I plan on doing this for a very long time. Sure, I do other things. I don't truck drive anymore, but I'm in cybersecurity stuff like that now too. But
I still truck drive.
it's
I
not
still
for, yeah.
drive.
I did 9 years, man. I had enough. I hauled fuel for 6 of it
Oh wow.
locally. Yeah. Yeah.
I transport animal products. That's what I do, regionally. And and it's funny because you said you have a laptop, and me, I wouldn't dream of bringing anything like that with me in my truck. Because I'm kind of clumsy, so I know that's why I'm not going to do that. But you gave me an idea. Because matter of fact, I have this recorder,
Yeah.
and I've been having, and I've been keeping these right here just so I can speak of something, or try to hum out a melody or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much where I'm at. I just want to hone my craft with this, just for my own, for my own personal use, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
But
If the rest of you stick with me for a second, I'll say this. As far as being a music producer, I've since the age of 10, I'm 37 now, but since the age of 10, music has been all I ever did. Not for
okay,
work, obviously, but um I do know that the more it's around you, the more, it's kind of an extension of who you are, the more it all makes sense. And those ones and zeros paint pictures for themselves, you know.
mm,
And ultimately it took many years, I think, before I understood how to do it. But when you can translate how you feel from inside your body out into audio is when you say, hey, I'm doing it. And my entire life, I think I always had this motto: I make music to listen to music. So, you got to love what you produce, whether it's
yeah,
terrible from the get go. You're always listening to it. Like in the trucks, I would render it out, or have my laptop plugged into the radio and just listen
yeah,
to it on loop. You know, because the more you listen to what you're doing, especially once it's rendered down and it's in audio format, you
right,
are hearing it as a whole, and you're understanding better how to dissect it when you're not looking at everything on the screen.
right.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's funny because like I have been doing that. I've been starting with just the loops in here. So I'm slowly, like I said, slowly taking those loops and I'm trying to edit them and trying to build, uh, like with the Novation. What I do is, I try to chop it down to at least like a one hit. The way that they use, the way that guys used to do with the MPCs.
Oh yeah.
You know, they'll run
Just the one sample.
right. They'll run something like that.
Yeah,
Right.
I had the 2000 XL. I had the 1000 XL.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as long as I was around there, I never picked it up. I used to watch guys go in
Yeah.
studios.
Just taking
No,
old
why?
school clips.
I used to watch guys go in studios. Remember the blue zip drives? Remember the blue zip drives? They were about this big, about that
Yeah, no,
flat.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I was sitting in the studio. A guy came in. He unzipped his coat. In each pocket, he had about 3 zip drives in there. He plugged his MPC in. He would hammer out at least 4 or 5 beats, man, in
Yeah.
like 10 minutes. and
Yeah.
hold out his hand. The people just pay him right there on the spot. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It didn't dawn on me though. When you see things, and you're not really paying attention, it never dawn on you. Now the knowledge of that
Yeah.
is like, is it really a lost art? No. Everybody's trying to emulate it though.
Right, right. And what Ableton does is it makes it much more easy to do, but
Right.
it's not like, DJing nowadays where you went from vinyl to these CD modules. From CD modules, you just plug your USB into them, and now they mix themselves for you. It's
Yeah.
not easier to it's easier in a sense with Ableton to create something as a whole and doing it by yourself, like in the back of a truck, like I have done. But it doesn't make you a better DJ, where a better producer. Whereas that equipment can literally make you an amazing DJ by doing nothing. This
Yeah. Yeah.
still is all you.
It's
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 the
funny because
intricacies, yeah, of a human mind and soul are being tested here, but the ability to expand all that is what Ableton allows you to do. Yeah.
it's funny because, like I said, I'm I'm around people that some embrace the new technology, others shun it, and it's like, are you kidding me?
The same thing in the DJ world. I mean, some
Yeah.
people, yeah, it's funny stuff, but yeah. All right, we're gonna call it here.
Yes,
Again,
sir.
it's abletonproduction.com. Get more information. You'll be able to watch the demo and schedule a call with us about everything. And if you're interested, we'll go whichever avenue that suits your time frame, schedule, whatever the best.
You got it. Thank
I,
you.
There
I
Thank
it
you
is.
want to
very
make
much.
sure, Rob, you mentioned that course is timed. So the very last course of this year gonna start in a few days, September 10, right?
I believe so. Is that what we
Yes, September 10. So, and there will be no course till the next year, guys. Jump in.
Oh, okay.
just because of holidays, stuff like that. However,
Yeah.
Yes.
if you want to do private to, do your 8-week course privately, not with, an entire class, which is actually can be more beneficial. For me personally, I will allow that 365. But it's
Okay.
just a matter of
Gotcha.
you wanting to schedule things. We'll talk about it first because we got holidays coming up, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, right,
Of course.
Valentina. We're not saying you can't join, and do the stuff on
Yeah,
your own, right?
absolutely. No pressure. We did find it's more effective when you guys in groups and when there's element of real life collaboration going on. And
Yes.
when you struggle in group, then you're winning in group together. It's more effective for sure.
Yeah.
Ableton for the classroom. Which one is it? I'm at Ableton for the classroom. No, this isn't it.
So let me go ahead and
All
go
right,
into-
but
let
what
me go
I'll
and
do
say
is,
here.
let's see, certified.
Ableton Production, very easy.
Yeah,
AbletonProduction.com.
but you're trying to download the Ableton, the newest version
No,
right now. Oh, okay, you're in the
no.
Ableton.com. Okay, or
I was just
Ableton.
trying to track down your email address.
Yep. Okay. Yep. You just go ahead and fill your information on Ableton production.com. It's at the very bottom. And yeah, we get in touch. You set a time, right? They can set a time to call if they want to talk personally, right, Valentina?
Yes. So once you on the demo page, once you fill in this information, we have your contact, and you will be able to see the first week class, and you will see how it goes and how the assignment go, and also you will be able to schedule a call with Rob. There's 2 buttons if you like to enroll, or if you like us to give you a call and chat with you.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good enough. Good
All
enough.
right.
And I'll
Thank you
let y'all
guys
look
for
at the playlist.
coming.
Bad. You're welcome. Hey, listen, thank you very much. You've been a big help.
Thank you for everybody who stuck
And
around.
I
Night,
will
Aaron, Anna,
contact you.
friends. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a pleasant week. And if I don't talk to you, enjoy the holidays.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night, y'all.